So welcome to the Happy Mindset, where we use the power of language and storytelling to help you find your voice. Today's episode is episode number 35, and today's episode title is Breaking Free of Your Patterns with Celia. So Silke is a coach and a psychologist for executives and entrepreneurs. She's got over 15 years of experience in counselling and coaching. She holds a master's degree in psychology. She's also been trained by world-renowned hypnotherapist Marissa Peer. She has also been trained by Dr. Justin Kennedy, who's got a background in neuroscience. She also is a master practitioner in NLP. She's a systemic work coach and a theta healer. So today we're going to talk about the brain, how it makes sense of our reality through pattern recognition, how cognitive biases affect our decision-making day to day, how to become more resilient and bounce back from stress quicker, what the sneeze method is all about, and finally we're going to discuss how rapid transformational therapy has the power to transform your life. So if you enjoyed today's episode, I would greatly appreciate it if you can leave a review and a rating wherever you're listening to it to. If you're curious about the Happy Mindset and our community, then head on over to Facebook, search for the Happy Mindset, and you'll find our community there. Ask to join the group and I'll accept you into our group. So thanks again for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Okay, so thanks for joining us today, Silke. Taking your time off.
Thanks, Dennis, for inviting.
No problem. So my first question is, what do you do today? How do you help people, Silke?
Yeah, what I do today is to really try to help people to find blocking patterns and release them for good in the moment, not later, but in the moment, and help them to install now positive patterns, which can be thoughts, feelings, or behavior patterns, like habits.
Mm-hmm. So how did you get into this line of work? What brought you to this line of work with people?
Yeah, so I actually studied psychology. So I have a master's degree in psychology. Then I worked as a trainer and coach for many years. And then I always was in between, shall I go for clinical psychology or shall I continue on my coaching and training path? So I found a compromise. It's not clinical psychology, it's also not coaching or life coaching. It's something in between. So I did courses in neuro-linguistic programming. I did courses on trauma work. It's called EMDR. I did some healing work, theta healing, family constellation. And then later I ended up in hypnotherapy. And my last training I did was rapid transformational therapy.
That's a lot of stuff. And you have a background in neuroscience as well, you were saying, I think.
Yeah, so neuroscience is a new buzzword with everything which deals with neurons. In the time when I studied psychology, we called it biological psychology.
Okay. So neuroscience is a relatively new term for biological psychology, is it?
Yeah, because it has different science departments. There is the Department of Neurology, there's the Department of Medicine, you can even say computer science, and then also psychology. Okay.
So what have you started to learn about the brain from neuroscience and the fields you've been in? What's the most important things for us to understand about our brain and how it's affecting how we see the world day to day?
Yeah. So what you actually recognize or what you perceive is only a part of the real world. Yeah, it's mostly what kind of patterns you already have. This can be visual patterns. For example, you're in a town, and even if you're in a new town, you will see skyscrapers, you see a marketplace, you will see a mall, but you estimate a lot. It's not that your brain actually sees the whole building. It sees parts of the patterns, and then out of your experience, you create your model of the world, what you're then actually seeing. And the same is with beliefs. So the way we think about certain things goes back, what were our first conclusions? Yeah, and we always make our conclusions out of modeling someone. When we were small, we saw our parents, our caretakers, doing certain things, and then we concluded, we imitated, we took over also certain beliefs and thoughts. Then we made our own experiences. And in the beginning, when you're still small, you can't reflect really what is the main thing. You still reflect to yourself. So it's quite egocentric.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened to you, I am the source of it. Yeah. If your mom forgets to feed you at the right time, it has something to do with me. Or if dad is now looking at me like this, there must be something with me, because I can't reflect what the other person is thinking. So what we create, the model, or what we believe we are, is certain patterns and associations we have created in our brain. And these are neurons firing together.
Mm.
Yeah.
So they help us to fill in the patterns, fill in the blanks. And so just in normal language, I guess it's the assumptions. That's what this is being built off of, then the assumptions we have about life. This is where they're coming from, is it?
Yeah, it's more associations. You have experiences, and they have to be coded somewhere in your brain. And they did experience, there's some research on it to get a model how the brain is really built up. And they say it's built up in certain layers in your cortex. So that's this area here.
Yeah.
And it's mostly associations. You have a lower layer, maybe these are just colors and patterns. Then later you have locations and seasons and temperatures and whatever. And then it becomes more and more complex. And now it's not like one layer is now involved in it. There are several layers. So the highest layer, then something in the middle, and the lower, and it all creates a certain image of the world.
Okay.
Yeah. And these are associations. You would, in psychology, you would say associations. In neurology or neuroscience, you would say these are network connections.
Okay. And then how, like the cognitive biases, how do they fit into how we perceive the world? Could you explain actually what is a cognitive bias and how does it affect our decision making and what we see in the world day to day?
Yeah, what we normally do, we decide quite impulsively, so quite intuitively, based on former experiences we had, and also our feeling. Every decision which is being made has a feeling. There's a very famous, I think he's a neurologist, Antonio Damasio, and he had patients who, there's an area in the brain, it's called the insula, and it was damaged with these people. And now they could not decide. For example, you gave them a menu card in a restaurant, and they could not decide which meal to choose, because with every decision you make, there comes a feeling with that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and normally we are quite impulsively, intuitively, we're deciding on something. And we call it fast thinking. Daniel Kahneman is the one who came up with this. Yeah, he came up with these words of fast and slow thinking. So most of the time we think quite fast. It's the lower region of the brain, or the middle brain is involved in that. And then when you do such fast decisions, you will not take in all the information. You have to make a rational decision. You have to think and analyze the facts and data. And in 95%, we are not doing that. We don't have time. Yeah, we don't, because like slow thinking, you have to really focus. And it happens in your prefrontal cortex here. And you have to think and you have to analyze, and it takes energy to do that. So out of reason of evolution, it's better and faster to do such decisions. And when we do these fast decisions, we do wrong estimations. And there are several of these cognitive biases. you make wrong conclusions based on experiences and expectations you have.
Is that how we get stuck in a pattern then of making the same types of decisions?
Yeah, you can say certain things which are already habits. Yeah, we have certain habits. These are trained ways how we behave and trained ways how we think. And they are now also again in a neural network, and we don't have to think too long about it. They're running themselves, and most of the time it's quite accurate. Yeah, so it's habits of thoughts and habits of behavior.
So coming back to the Daniel Kahneman, was it System 1 and System 2 we used to describe those two modes of thinking, was it? Was that the book, Thinking Fast and Slow?
Yes, yes. So that's his first or the most famous book where he differentiates between fast and slow thinking.
And so how do we know when to combine them? How do we know when to think slower and when we can trust our fast thinking?
Yeah, you can't combine them. You have to choose which one to do. And one advice is if it's a very important decision, which long-lasting impact, for example, to think about a certain business decision on company level. Then to avoid that leaders are just assuming they know it, because then there comes a bias. Okay, I have this experience, I know it all, and then you think you always make the right decision, which is not true. You have to create a kind of algorithm. Either you, for important decisions, you bring in people like department leaders, and then you brainstorm, and everybody comes with his or her solution, and then you find the best of it. Or you have to reduce your thinking consciously. Yeah, you have to say, okay, now I take the time to analyze the facts.
So you're saying the two options there are to slow down yourself and take in more data points, or to get a team of people around you with different perspectives and reach the best solution based on different perspectives?
Or to use algorithms, to have a certain system in the background, which does all this rational thinking for you, and in the end you can still bring in your intuition.
Okay, so do you see AI playing a big role in the way we make decisions then, because there's no emotion within an algorithm? Do you see that playing out like that in the future, or we're going to use that more?
If you read the books from Yuval Harari, he is very much convinced that in centuries to come, algorithms will have taken over a lot of human thinking.
Okay. What's the benefit of that for us, though? Will it free us up to do more creative stuff, or what's the positive side to algorithms making our decisions?
Yeah, it can come up with new creative ideas, which humans really come up with. It can avoid, because it has, when you connect them into these intranets, then you have data from all over the place. And then the more data you have, the better solutions you can come up with. Now you have only one human brain with certain experiences, and based on this, you have to create something.
Okay.
And it's very, very difficult to come up with very unique ideas, and the more data you have, you can analyze better. It's scary. It's a little bit, if you listen to it, it's a little bit horrifying. And therefore I say, if it comes, you should know yourself better. And the most people, they don't know themselves. They don't have a good connection to their body, to their feelings, and even to their thoughts.
Yeah. So, we'll turn more inward, so to getting to know ourselves better. You've got a method of SNEEZE. There's a SNEEZE approach to the neurons. Can you talk a bit more about? It's an acronym, and we'll just expand on that a bit more. It's a way for us to get to know ourselves better.
Maybe why you should sneeze more often is to keep really your neurons fit. And this will also help you to, when you're in stressful situations, to really recover faster from stress, to be more stress resilient. And this helps you in better decision making, because then you can switch, you become more agile. And agile leadership is also a buzzword right now. Agility and leadership agility. And for this, you need a better brain, or how the brain works. And SNEEZ helps you, and S stands for sleep, N stands for nutrition, E stands for emotional control, the other A stands for activity, then we have another S again, it's social interaction, and E stands for enthusiasm.
Could you go through, just expand on that a bit more, as in like what are the main things we should be aware of within that acronym for our day-to-day living?
Yeah, it's, by the way, it's a method I learned from the neuroscientist, Professor Dr. Kennedy. He came up with this acronym. So sleep. A lot of the minimum amount of sleep you need is 7 hours per night. Why do I say per night? Because our midbrain, there is the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus releases a lot of hormones and regulates all our waking and sleeping cycle. And quite a number of hormones are only released during night time. So our brain realizes it's night right now, and then it has to do its work. In 7 hours, because there are certain sleeping circles you go through the night. And one you may have heard about, it's the REM sleep. Mm-hmm. When people are sleeping in the REM sleep, you will see that they're like moving their eyes to the right and to the left. And this gives you a sign that you're in a certain brain wave. And in this brain wave of REM sleep, you process whatever happened during the day from a part of the brain, it's called Heart Coherence. You upload it to higher regions of the brain to create these connections and associations again. So,
actually, now that you're talking about that, I've heard many inventors like Thomas Edison and people like that, where they've actually put a question to themselves before they went to bed. They wrote out a question and they turn it over to the subconscious mind to mull it over at night time. Is there any science behind that, to why somebody would do that?
There's a certain thing behind that. I don't know if the hippocampus is doing this, but our brain is really like a computer. And they say for this rational thinking, it's very important that you get information before. So you get information, you absorb them, you search for them, and then you just let the brain process it. Yeah, it can take a night, it can take a week. Yeah, and then you have this aha moment. Yeah, you definitely have heard, it was like this. Yeah. And these moments you call also eureka moments. And before, you have to put something in your brain, and then the brain processes it and comes up with a solution. So it's like a small AI, of course. Yeah. And this is what people are doing before they go to bedtime, when they're still in this dreamlike state. It's either before they go to bed or when they wake up in the morning. It's a kind of brainwave where you can still process things, and you're more suggestible for things you put into your brain. Okay. Sleep over. They say, okay, you have a problem. First of all, get information to solve it, and then sleep over it, and then you will come up with a solution. That's more let the brain work about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I've heard that phrase a lot too, actually. So that's kind of why it's working on a brain level.
Yeah. So therefore, sleep is very important, because it also releases growth hormones to re-energize yourself. And certain hormones which balance that you're not, it stores also sugar in your body. So 7 hours of sleep during the night is very important. The next one is nutrition. Very obvious. the first question is, of what are neurons made of? And they are mostly made of proteins and fatty acids. Therefore, take out or cut out any carbohydrates, especially the starchy ones like bread, pasta, rice, etc., white rice especially, and concentrate on good proteins. Yeah, that's very important. And omega-3s, it's, you can find, these are, because omega fatty acids, they have two types of it, which I can't recall out of my mind now. And these ones are quite, often you can find them in fish fatty acids. They're also in line oil, but it has a fatty acid, which is also good for your skin and for your health. But for the brain, you need a certain fatty acid. So omega-3s are quite good for that. Yeah, this is where when it comes to nutrition. And if you take carbohydrates, then more from vegetables.
Oh, okay. So the main things are the proteins, the fatty acids, and carbohydrates more so from vegetables than anything else. They're the things to keep in mind.
Yeah, because you also need some energy. Yeah.
Cool.
And now we come to emotional control. That's a very, very important thing, because there is a difference between emotions and feelings. Emotions are, for example, your brain receives a certain signal and it perceives it as slightly dangerous. And then automatically, before you have even consciously seen the object, already the brain is releasing certain neurotransmitters, and then from your adrenal glands, a whole cocktail of noradrenaline and adrenaline is released into your body. And this stimulates certain physical reactions in your body, which is your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, your muscles tense, and your whole metabolism is increased without you even thinking about it. And for all these emotions or for all these reactions, what comes from outside or from inside, you have certain sensations going on in your body, something which happens in your body. And these are energy in motion, therefore emotion. It's the physiological, so the body things of the whole thing. When your brain now perceives, there's some certain sensations, the temperature is different, my heart is beating, and I'm like, I get a rush in my face, this means it's a feeling of attraction or to feel in love. Yeah. And this feeling is already then done from a conscious thought of your brain. Yeah, you have the physiological aspect of it, something you're not aware, your brain is just releasing certain things that your body reacts. And then your conscious awareness, what's going on in your body, is then a feeling. It's very important to differentiate, because the faster you catch what's going on in your body, the better you can regulate it. And this is what I call what mindfulness actually is. Yeah. So to connect really to your body and sense, okay, I feel tight here, I feel warm, I feel tense. And the moment you express it, it's more in your control.
Okay. So is it more about just taking some time out and just feeling like, what does my body feel like right now, if there's a pain here or there? Is that?
Yeah, you don't need to really take a time out. It's only to dive into your body and realize what's going on in this moment. For example, you feel stressed, and a lot of people, they don't sense it, because they're in their work, they're just continuing, they have certain deadlines, and you really want to fulfill it, and you ignore everything what's going on in your body. But if your body is already quite tense, it also reduces really your ability to think clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore they recommend that it's just 1 minute, and we can practice it together if you want. If you feel that you're a little bit confused, or you can't orientate you, or you can't come up with good thoughts, and you feel somehow drained or stressed, in any moment, just sit there and put your hand on the table. If you're sitting next to a table, or just put your hand on the chair.
What does that
If
do
you
for
have a
you?
chair. Yeah, I'm explaining it now.
Yeah.
Just put your hand on the chair right now. And now, in this moment, just feel the chair. Just feel the texture of the chair. Is it soft? Is it rough? Yeah. And when you go with your palm over it, yeah, what's happening? Is it cold? Is it warm? Yeah. Just feel how the chair really feels. And in this moment, whatever stressed you before, and you were not even aware from where it came from, now getting in touch with the chair, you have to put your conscious into that, and you realize, I'm actually sitting on a chair. The chair is somehow safe. There's no ugly thing on the chair. There's no danger, in fact. And I put myself back into the present moment just by feeling what's all about this chair. Is it, what texture does it have? And then when you have contact with the chair and you got a sensation from the chair now, then you can just breathe in and out and concentrate on your heart. Just concentrate on your heart and breathe in into your heart and out. And keep a continuous rhythm, like 1, 2, 3 in, and 1, 2, 3 out, and again in and out. And with this, you have really put yourself into a different state. Yeah, because with a lot of stress response, your heart is beating faster, what I said before. And with this, first of all, you put yourself back in the present moment. You realize you're on a chair and the chair feels like this, so it's safe. And then you just continue for 1 minute, and you have already changed something from your whole physiology, and therefore you have changed your feeling.
And does that determine the quality of your thinking then when you go back to your work and you've changed the state?
Well, yeah, it's if you're more in a neutral state, if you manage to go more in a neutral state, yes. Yeah.
You're talking about the coherence, because I've heard of the heart coherence. It's the coherence in breathing that has a big impact on our energy.
This is what I told you, because because the heart is often involved in a lot of physiological processes, because the heart pumps then blood into your body so that you can use it either for strengthening your muscles or to use your brain for thinking. Therefore, the heart is one of the most important organs, and it's in the most cases involved in any emotions. And if you concentrate on your heart, you can actually feel it pumping, and then you can easily regulate it. Yeah, you have a quite good access to your heart. And then you regulate your heartbeat down just with this breathing. It doesn't need so that you're here sitting for 10 minutes or whatever. Just really, and you can do it in a business meeting, wherever you are. Just concentrate on your heart and have really a rhythm. Yeah, it's like 1, 2, 3, out 1, 2, 3, or in 1, 2, 3, 4, out 1, 2, 3. Whatever your rhythm is, just keep it easy and continuously, and concentrate on your heart and breathe through it. And I also like that you get first into contact with something. You can also take your pen, look at the pen, look at the color of the pen, reflections on the pen, and also how the pen feels like. Is it cold? Is it smooth? Whatever, yeah? And this immediately brings you in the present moment and out of your conscious, whatever, automatic thinking. It brings you in the moment.
Does that help to break
and you sense, I'm here, and it feels like.
Is that in
I
essence?
can't hear you.
Yeah, is that in essence breaking the pattern of your analytical mind, coming back into the present moment and focusing your attention on the here and now? Is that in essence of
No, it's also more to bring you out of your I would also say to bring you out of your unconscious processes. Yeah, because you think you're still doing your work, yeah, and you're still, of course, somehow concentrating on your work, but you're not in your best performance anymore. And very soon there will be devices showing you exactly in what kind of physical energy you are and how your brain is working. In the most cases, if you are all of a sudden use much more time, you're not performing at your best anymore. And then taking this kind of breaks interrupts something, and it actually brings you to conscious thinking. That's actually then rational thinking, because you have to focus what you're doing right now.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. It's kind of counterintuitive in the moment, especially when you're swept up away in the unconsciousness of it. I think that's what I struggle with day to day. It's like,
yeah, it's more, we have also thought patterns. If you work, often some certain things are automatic. It's based on what you have done before, and certain, even if you create a presentation, it's often more or less automatic. Yeah, and then you have moments, okay, now how can I do this? And then you go back again in habit mode. And then you don't realize that you maybe are already stressed and you're not feeling that.
yeah.
And if you're stressed, you can't perform at your level best, because then this part of the brain, the rational thinking, is definitely not too much involved anymore.
Disconnect. So with the next, so that's emotional.
Yeah, or if a lot of people have panic attacks, or they like their feelings are all over the place, then this is very, very important to bring them back. Or you have a presentation and you have this stage fright, yeah, and you're a little bit nervous, yeah, then just go to this very simple exercise, and your physiology and then your thinking will be much improved, and therefore you will perform better.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Coming back to the breath and breathing. So would you recommend that as well for somebody who's like going through an anxiety attack, or somebody who's giving a presentation in front of a big crowd? Is to come back to the breathing?
And holding something, getting also present, something consciously in front of you.
Okay.
Because there's the panic when we were in a Stone Age, then there were dangers all over the place. Nowadays, dangers are really reduced, and still one part of our brain is still reacting to whatever stress factors are in the environment. Yeah, and then a panic attack is something which may have a cause in the past, and you have the same thing as there would be danger really in front of you. It's like feeling impending danger just in front of you. And one thing, because your heartbeat will be really up in that moment if you have a panic attack and anxiety, and then holding something and realizing there is no actual danger in front of you, and you concentrate on this to involve your conscious thinking in this moment. And then do the breathe to regulate your heartbeat down.
Does that come back to the subconscious mind not knowing what the difference between what's real and what's imagined? Is that why you feel so much terror when something's not actually happening to you?
That's a little bit a difficult question, because It can be that you perceived a situation in the past as dangerous, and somehow something similar triggers you again. And with panic attacks, it's like a network is firing on its own in this moment. It can be people I met, they had like a relationship thing and it ended really badly. And then you have this thing, oh yeah, I will be alone. Who I am, who will I be when I'm alone? Or certain things that you fear really to face someone. I once had a student, she had panic attacks to go back to class, and for weeks she couldn't go to the school. The nearer she came to the school, she was throwing up and she really had panic attacks. And later the root source was that there was a misunderstanding between her and her close friends.
Okay.
Yeah. It's very individual how a panic attack can start.
So how do we start getting to the root source and breaking the patterns? How do you start doing that with people?
Yeah, shall I finish first the sneeze and then we go because we had ended with the first E. Mm-hmm. Then activity comes, that's the A. And it doesn't mean that you have to go to marathons or you have to spend hours in the gym. Research has shown that high interval intensity training are quite good for your brain. And you only have to work out like 20 minutes per day, so it's really manageable to do it. And then stretching and brain gym exercises where you do crossover exercises like these ones. Yeah, these are also quite important to balance your right and left hemisphere. And it's good to do that during breaks.
Why is high intensity interval training? Why is that good for the brain?
Yeah, it's also more good for the body. You have a blood flow going on, but you're not exhausting yourself. You bring yourself to a certain level where you really pump your heart, and then you have again a phase of relaxation, and then again you go for high intensity, and then you have relaxation again. And if you go for long jogging, it can exhaust your body, which puts again stress on you.
Okay.
Yeah, and then stretching exercise is also really good for your body. And then we have the second S, which is social activities. We are also wired that we have a social brain. So social connections to friends and family is very, very important, or to belong to a community. It gives us a sense of belonging, and then there comes another hormone, it's oxytocin, which really calms us down and we feel safety. And very important, belonging, because in Stone Age it was very, very important that we were together with other people. Being alone meant much more danger and death.
Okay, so
and E is enthusiasm, passion for the work you do. That's living on your values.
Why is that important on a brain level? Why is passion and living from your values important on a brain level?
Yeah, because the brain puts labels on certain experiences. You can call it a price label. It's whenever you experience something which was better than you expected it, then you have a rush of dopamine. Yeah, something is better than you expected, then it's dopamine. And then you learn, this is how learning works. Then you learn, okay, I will repeat that. Okay, this is really nice. I want to have it again. And then if you have the similar experiences, then you even have a rush of dopamine before you even see the object. So you're searching for it. If in the first thing, it was a reward after, but then you have, with experience, you already have the release of dopamine before, and then you look for it.
And what's the flip side of that? When our expectations aren't being met, what chemicals are in the brain then?
If our expectations are not met,
Yeah. If we got
if
unrealistic.
it's worse, so you mean if it's worse than expected?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What's the chemicals that are being produced in?
Yeah, then we avoid it.
Okay.
Yeah, then we will avoid this in the future. It didn't feel good. Yeah. So again, your physiology is like, ooh, yeah. So, mm, no, or it was fearful. And then you have a physiological response to it, and then a certain feeling, which is on the bad side. You will avoid it.
Oh, yeah. How about I find when I step out and do something new, there's uncomfortable feelings that come up, like from doing something new because it's venturing into the unknown. How do we start doing things that are actually good for ourselves, but they feel uncomfortable to begin with? Is there any way to get around that?
Yeah, there's Marisa Peer. She's talking a lot about how the mind works. And one of her principles is that the mind really likes to be in its comfort zone. So we do things which are familiar and we avoid things which are unfamiliar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? And to avoid this, you can say, first of all, for example, you want to lose weight. That's a very obvious one. So you want to lose weight, but you really like cake. Yeah, the cake it gives you, just thinking about cake gives you a dopamine rush, and then you're really looking to get that cake, to eat it again. Then you will always be tempted to eat it. You go to a restaurant and there's salad and there's cake. So one side of the brain is saying, I really want this cake. The cake always makes you feel good and you feel so comfortable with that, and it's really, really, really good. Yeah. And there's another side of the brain which you have decided now that health is a value for you. If health is not a value, you will actually go for the cake, because joy and pleasure is also a value for you. But it's so you have really to create a thing why it's worth to eat the salad instead of the cake. And then you can talk in a rational way to the other part of the brain. So you say, the one says, cake is the best thing you can have. And then the other one say, I know that, and I can have cake when I'm 90 years old. Then I don't bother at all anymore how I look like. But still cake, you want it now. No, I know. But now what I actually want is that I look really good in my trouser. And I can't fit into my trouser for a year now. And I want to fit in. And therefore, I choose the salad now. And do you know what? I realized that salad really thrills me. When I eat this tomato, it's extraordinary and it feels so good. But the cake, you can't compare that to a cake anymore, because when I come then to the lettuce, it's even better for me. So this is the way, and you try it out and you just tell yourself that it's really extraordinary to eat the salad. It's so thrilling to eat the salad that cake is like chewing gum, and chewing gum is not really tasty. It's just tasty in the first 3 seconds and then it already waves out. Yeah, so this is what you can do to overcome your comfort zone. You have to create a value that health and fitting into your trouser is really important at that time. And therefore, the salad is really thrilling.
So it starts with like a conscious value system that you have in place.
Yes.
To negotiate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And then you try it out, and then you reward yourself after eating the salad. You say, wow, you have done this so great. So you reward yourself after this.
Okay. So you're conditioning yourself to So like the way it's kind of like a condition yourself to do something that's in your best benefit, in your best interest.
Yeah, and then you repeat that several times and then it becomes a new habit.
Yeah.
And then a habit means things go automatically. You don't need to have this dialogue all over again. You just, if you still have this high value of fitting into your trouser, it will come automatically then.
So at the start, it takes a bit of conscious effort, and then after time, it gets easier as you do it more. It becomes a habit, habitual. Yeah. So how about the rapid transformational therapy? Then what does that entail? What is rapid transformational therapy, and how does it help people?
Yeah, rapid transformational therapy is a method developed by Marissa Peer over the last now more than 30 years. And it's a combination of hypnotherapy, cognitive therapy, and NLP. And what it really does is if you compare normal coaching or counseling, you discuss how you feel about a certain situation. For example, your workplace, or that you broke up with someone, or that you feel always tensed and overwhelmed. But you would not dig deeper to find out that maybe past experience or your upbringing taught you to think that you have to be always better than others, that you have to keep your desires to yourself, or that you had a past experience or trauma which taught you that you're not always safe. So you have, for example, financial success, but you're losing it in the end all over again. So it brings you back to a root source. You're digging deeper. It's to find out your pattern, because our brain, as I said before, we operate on patterns. We also have our own algorithms. And to make it really economic, to live economically, certain patterns are running you. And some patterns are for your good. The most of them are for your good, and some of them, they're limiting you. And with rapid transformation therapy, you go back to the root source to find out where in the first place you created these patterns. Find maybe 2 more events to really become very clear what the root source is. And if you have understanding, you have also control. And then you release this pattern for good. Yeah, you take it out of the ground, yeah? And then instead of it, you insert positive suggestions. And these suggestions you mostly have already had, but now we link it to certain experiences in your life.
Okay. So does that in some way tie into like doing things that are uncomfortable for the long term, as in like delaying your gratification? Does that tie in some way there as well? Or I guess I guess as well, it's kind of like once you see the pattern, how is it actually dissolved? Because sometimes you can be aware of a pattern, but you have no idea how you can let go of it. What's the actual ins and outs of how you dissolve the pattern?
And the most important thing is, which is different, there's also something called timeline therapy. In hypnotherapy, you go into a very relaxed, dreamlike state. And in this state, you're really able to access your subconscious mind, past memories. And memories are stored as like an image, a thought, and a feeling attached to it. And with this relaxed state, you can more easily access them, because some of the memories the brain has, for your best, forgotten. So you would not consciously come up with this event because it was painful, it was not safe for you. So the best thing is to forget about it. But it's still running in the background. Forgetting means you're not consciously aware of it, but of course it's still there. The memory is still there. There's a root of also neural network, which are still running in the background. And then you access it through this dreamlike state.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said you can, in a sense, you delete it and you reprogram it. Yeah, because these are programs in our brain, and you reprogram the whole thing. And in a dreamlike state, you're also more suggestible for new positive beliefs.
Okay. And does the person themselves consciously choose the auto-suggestion they'd like to play out in their life?
Yeah, so first of all, you create the awareness, and it's a conscious awareness. So this is how it came from. And then you release that into, you just tell your subconscious mind, you can let go of it. It's outdated. And in my recent peers work, you even go back to the events you have found. And you go in as your adult self and you say, I'm not this age anymore. I'm not 3 years anymore. Now I would handle it this and this way. You can re-experience it and you change the whole meaning. For example, before you kept silent, you kept quiet about it. Now you go back to the same scene as your adult you and you speak up. Or instead of being helpless and be frozen in it, you can actually fight or run away instead of freezing.
So some of these patterns too probably served a purpose in the past when we were children to keep us safe, but they're no longer.
Yeah, they're outdated. We never updated them to the current moment. It's like you have a software. It was developed 2010. Now we're in 2019. It's definitely outdated. And all your apps are always updated. And with our brain, it's like these were programs developed, I don't know what your age is, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. And you're still running the same software, you're applying the same conclusions to similar situations. Yeah, because you sense, it's similar to this. Yeah, your brain said, it's somehow this. We had a conclusion to this. It was like this. And it was, and if you don't update them, it's still outdated. And it's often then the programs which are limiting you to come up with other actions, because if you change your pattern of thought, you change your pattern of action.
That's the key thing, yeah. Yeah, I like that analogy. Like I used to think of it like you're running Windows 95 when there's Windows 10 today. It's a good analogy. I think ties into the programming aspect of things as well. Some like memories, though. Like, can you explain a bit more about memories? Like, how is a memory formed, and like how on a brain level, like what's actually firing? When we're thinking of something in the past.
There's one Professor Kandel. He got a Nobel Prize on this one, and it's a little bit complicated. So a neuron has a cell body, it has an axion, and it has dendrites. It's like, how can I show that? It's like a tree, yeah? It's the axion, it looks more like the stem, and then the cell body, and then you have branches going out, which are called dendrites. And if a memory is formed, then you develop more connections, like synaptic connections and receptors on these dendrites. So more other neurons can connect with each other. So you have from another neuron, there's an axion, and the axion is, so to say, the part which communicates with the other one. It's like the finger, yeah? And then it goes to the dendrites of the neuron. And then when you have a memory, more receptors are opened and more dendrites. So you have more activity information going into this neuron. So it becomes stronger in this. That's really the neuroscience level. On a more like a psychological level is this experience has a memory on your neurons in your brain. and it forms a certain connection, and therefore an image, a feeling, and a thought. That's more the psychological side. Yeah. So just remember any memories, whatever, or new learning, because it's with new learning you get new experiences and new information. And this information is stored in a kind of program.
So does with the new learning and new experiences, does that affect how we remember our memories? Does that affect the way we think about our memories? Does, like a new experience, a new understanding, does that affect our memories in any way?
It's a learning. Yeah. You can change some memories. They can get weaker. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you have now a new thought and new learning thing, which can override the other one. The other one is not entertained as much anymore, and the new program is running. Therefore, you can always relearn. So, and sometimes, you can forget things, so they're not in your front anymore. Yeah, and therefore, you can choose. You can create new behavior out of this, new thoughts. But remember, it's always important to go back to the old memory and really weaken it a lot, because with affirmations, you always try to create a new thought pattern. Yeah, you put the affirmations on your screen, you repeat them in meditations and whatever. But what you still need, you have to change it on a neurological level too. And the old one is still there. Therefore, methods like hypnotherapy can really help to delete the old memory fully, and so that the new affirmation can really sink into it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so you unlearn something first to relearn, to learn and move forward.
Yeah, and you can always override. Yeah, so affirmations in some way are also, of course, working. Yeah, because you create a new learning and you like it and you entertain it more, and then you go more into this direction.
So it's another thing that I'm curious about too is when we're learning new things, it's developing new neural pathways in our brain with new skills. Like we're kind of touching on it there, where it's like neurons that wire together, or the neurons that fire together wire together, so they strengthen over time, and you get better at a skill. Can you talk to us a little bit about skill development on a brain level, like what's happening when somebody goes out and they learn a new skill, and at the beginning it's rusty and they don't know what to do? Like, can you tell us what happens on a brain level?
Repetition. You have to repeat. To create a new skill, you need to repeat it several times so that it becomes automatic, fluent. Yeah, and if the body is also involved, also it needs a fast response. That, for example, you want to learn the skill of playing tennis, then certain things of body work, how you hold your racket, everything has to be trained all over again, that it becomes automatic and very fluent in your body. It's repetition. Okay. And then you have motor programs running, and they become more and more fluent. And then, of course, you have to do exercises that your body is also really nicely trained and flexible to follow. And then also your brain work, to perceive the ball at the right time. It's repetition. It's a lot of repetition.
Cool. So do you have any book that stands out for you that really helped you to understand the brain in particular that you recommend people to read?
Not really.
So something that mightn't be too dense, but something that's kind of like an entry level into understanding this.
It has to be something people understand.
Yeah.
For me, because for me it was what I learned in my study time, and then for myself I watched then videos, also Stanford University lectures, and just to refresh it what happened in between. But any kind of book on the human brain, I don't have a specific one now, to be really honest. I can only recommend, but mine was in German language.
Okay.
yeah, it was like something, the physiology of the brain, how the brain works. Yeah.
Okay.
You could have asked me before, then I would have looked for.
No worries. If you can think of something, we can put it in. I can put a link in the notes now if you think of a book later on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks for the conversation today, Silke. We've learned a lot about the brain and therapy as well, rapid transformational therapy, and how to break the patterns in our brain. I think it's good to have an understanding of like just what we're perceiving day to day and how influenced we are by our brains and what they're feeding us. So thanks for taking the time out.
Yes, and really know yourself before AR knows you better. And it's time, yeah, and it's time to understand yourself better and be gentle with yourself and get the best out of yourself.
Cool. That's a good message. Yeah, to look inwards as we move forward. Perfect.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. So, thanks again, Silke. And yeah, until next time, have fun and enjoy the process.
Okay, great. Thanks for having me on your show. Thanks a lot.